Okay, so here we are in Power Grid, moving, still in that first era. The amount of overproduction that people have made very little bidding happen, but some did. So we still haven't gotten rid of some of this garbage. In fact, we've gotten some new stuff that people really don't want. Looking at the order, black passed, but yellow put this thing up at 18. Red bought it for 19. Yellow said that's fine, just so one of us with a nuke has some other option, because I want those prices to go down if they can. However, then they said, wait a minute, this thing is awesome. And they put it up for 29, and no one was willing to take the hit of buying it. It's so expensive at this moment, but it really is quite awesome. And they actually had to discard, and they chose to get rid of their recycling, which is particularly poor. It was a hard choice between that or this coal, but just the price of coal is so low right now that having that alternative type of energy seemed like a bad idea. And we already have a lot of flexibility here, and then with the nukes as well. And I think we've got a good stable hand there. Purple passed. They've got way more production than they need. Red already purchased. Green passed, and I believe blue passed. So I think only 2 cards went out. Now we go to the building and the buy raw materials and building combined phases for me. So the different players are trying to reach their capacity, or trying to use the capacity they have. Blue expanded into Birmingham and Knoxville, I believe, pushing them into where everyone else pretty much is. They can easily supply all this with their one thing, and they actually have extra coal for. Green's having a hard time. They couldn't make it to Portland. That was too expensive, so they went to Las Vegas. They also invested fairly heavily in oil. Now, they have... put these over here. They're safer there. They have enough cities that they need to run both plants. That makes this poor little expensive thing kind of painful, but they'll make more money that way. Oil isn't that expensive, although the prices are going up. They invested in it because they could see that the prices were kind of scary. Red. Red just bought a nuke. It's the only way they could do things. They did an expansion as far as Chicago, trying to get up into this area, which looks kind of rich at this point. But they didn't have a lot of extra money. They can supply everything because they have that wind power now. After red, we go to purple, and purple, boom, they spread up into Kansas City and Omaha now, and St. Louis. So they're up at the top in terms of total number of cities connected, and they've got this massive power plant here, which, along with the wind, they can supply all that. They're going to have to increase their power to expand some more, or expand and then increase their power, depending on how they see things. But they definitely need more power before they can expand, or before it counts. Okay, how about yellow? Yellow expanded down into Miami, and they're kind of cut off now. They're glad because that someone's getting close to that 7 mark, because they've got pretty expensive jump here if they don't want to do that. This is a 26. This would only be 22 to connect, or this. So, and then there's some cheaper things up here. So they may have their best options being the second provider in a city. And they're able to produce everything they need off the one nuke. They did not have the extra cash to buy the cheaper oil or coal, which would also cover what they needed. But they had that nuke left over from last time, so they're fine. And last but not least, good old Black, who banged their way up to 6 by expanding into Buffalo, and they're cheapy at Boston. They've got all their stuff on the line now in order to have enough capacity for all those cities. They have enough capacity to run that 7th city. They just didn't have the cash on hand to expand. It's going to be an expensive expansion if they're the ones doing it. I think the closest is probably Duluth, which is going to be, I don't know. Might be something. This is just as expensive to Minneapolis, might be more valuable. They can hop through the cities, but they have to pay the transit costs for each of those cities. The rules are kind of poorly written on this matter. It's very clear if you work through them, but it almost sounds like you have to be next to everything, and then it makes it clear that you don't. All very disturbing. Okay, so I'll do the cleanup stuff. Handing out the money. We're going to see some big money because of people with powered up 6s. What does that bring? That brings $73. So we're starting to get money to the quantities where nothing out here looks daunting anymore. It's just a matter of, hey, it's not there yet. We're still waiting on it. That windmill is going to get buried, which is a shame. That looks very good. Of course, this one's just as good and a bit cheaper. I don't know if there's anything else about the commodities coming back. So here I am on the next turn. Set up the turn order. Prices are out. Coal is cheap again. Garbage is getting really cheap. Nukes, they're holding. Oil seems to be holding its price as well. But the black player is going first. Being in the lead effectively. And he's got a real conundrum here. He's got 7 production capability. He's got enough cash, and he can't expand to anything adjacent or cheap without that somebody reaching 7 and then the next turn. He's got enough cash to shoot out to either Minneapolis or Duluth and buy resources and buy one of these factories. He needs one of those factories to fuel what's going to happen. But he's not thrilled with any of them. He's considering just putting this piece of garbage up for $3 to fuel him for this turn, or doing multiple expansions that he's not going to be able to use, which puts him at kind of a weird disadvantage. But this thing isn't that expensive. It's about the cost of the oil that he's going to have to buy for it. Well, it's about half the price of the oil that he's going to have to buy for it. It almost seems like a worthwhile action to just do that and say, okay, I want something better next turn. I'll save some cash. Maybe do the double expansion or something, but not go overboard here. I'm not sure. Obviously, this sucker would solve his problems. It produces enough power that he can handle. Nobody's playing in garbage, so maybe that's the best move. Having a second one. It's clearly, though, less valuable than this thing, unless and until oil gets worse. With no garbage out there, I'm just not sure which way I'm going to go on this. I think he wants one or the other. He doesn't want the nuke. There's too many people using nukes. It's just not. It's not an efficient enough answer for him at this point. All right, he's going to go and put that cheap one up. I'll come back after some sales have happened. Okay, so Black did indeed pick this up. Got it cheap. It's going to be probably a one-turn owning, but overall, it may be their best purchase that was available. Next was Purple, who put the recycling plant up. They need that huge extra production. Nobody's in recycling. Prices will be going down soon, even more. They think they can manage to operate that thing at a profit. Okay, and here's the thing: nobody was overbidding. Like nobody was bidding over what the initial bid was. Things were just going for the base value. Just because nothing out there was, there was always better stuff in the future. So it's like, yeah, if you want that, go ahead. I got something I got my eye on. Yellow passed. They got plenty of production. Blue, same issue, plenty of production there. Red. Red, I think, discarded. Yeah, Red got rid of this, replacing it with this somewhat heavier plant. Coal's cheap still, although adding another burden on there. But it's not a heavy burden. Their old plant used 2 to produce 1 power. Their current plant is going to use 3 to produce 5 power. That's a huge advantage, and maybe they can shut that nuke down for a while. That thing's just not producing a lot of cash for them. May have been a bad idea. And then we go to green, and green got this freed up and decided, okay, you know, I don't really have a lot of cash, but that kind of extra productive power without having to buy any fuel, I can't really say no to that. It may cut my expansion a little bit, but I'll still be able to, and it's for the best. All right, speaking of expansion, let's go to the purchasing and building. So looking at some of the initial expansions, green didn't have a lot of cash after building a couple of oil for their production, which they need if they're expanding. They were only able to make it to Phoenix, which is basically their 3rd choice. Well, maybe 4th, I don't know. Santa Fe looks even worse, but they would have rather gone into Salt Lake or obviously Portland. They couldn't do either, so now they're expanding this way. They're feeling very hosed by their position, location-wise. Red pushed into Minneapolis, as well as buying enough coal. They can run everything off the coal plant. They didn't have enough cash to do another expansion. Blue, I believe, shot into Memphis and New Orleans. They spent a lot on expansion. They're up to the 6th spot, which is sort of in the lead, although that may change. And bought themselves some coal. They can run that all off their coal plant. Then we go to yellow, and yellow had a hard choice. They bought themselves a coal. That's it. Their cheapest expansion is like $47 up into Duluth. If somebody doesn't break this game open with the 7th piece, they're in really bad shape. But that amount of money to get 1 space just seems obscene to me. So as soon as that 7th space goes, they can start expanding closer at about half that cost. And they're willing to take a turn in the doldrums to cope with that. I haven't done purple and black yet. They might break it, especially purple. Purple's got no real reason not to. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. A lot of productive capability if they add the garbage in there. And that's pretty much what they're counting on. Everyone was counting on it breaking at this point, but if purple doesn't want to, then it leaves black with an ugly choice. Their first expansion is going to be $32 up to Duluth, which also isn't terribly pleasant, but they might be more willing to swallow that than yellow was. So indeed, purple did push it. They went into Fargo and Duluth. They had enough money to do both of them and power up both their plants. The other option was move into Cheyenne and just worry about these 2 and stay at 7, but they thought, might as well get that extra money. It's an extra $8. The coal didn't cost me that much more, and I think having the locations in the long run is more valuable than saving a couple extra bucks. Black sees no reason to spend a lot of money to jump across the board to where things are expensive. They got a lot of stuff they can hit that's clustered around here that's about the same price as if they moved over here. So they're going to hold on and just run what they need to run their factories. They chose to buy coal instead of oil. They could have run this thing. Turns out they wasted by buying it. They shouldn't have, but you know, they were thinking they would have to break the game open. It was only $3, no big deal. They'll be discarding that. All right, well, I guess we do the payouts and all the cleanup. Oops, I'm in a phase change and I kind of forgot. Those happen between steps 4 and 5 over here, at least for the second one. The third one's even has more to do with it. I kind of jumped ahead and paid out the cash, and some people made some Mondo cash there. There's no question. $90 for the purple, for example. But I should have done this first. It doesn't really affect anything, I don't think, except you get to see the things. So what changes is this is obsolete and will not be available anymore. And we get a replacement. Another windmill. I don't know how much that affected things. And now we're in this new place where we can build houses for a second location in each city. If a new player can come in, you can't double up on your own. That's not allowed. Which will allow yellow and black to kind of escape from their trap, and in a sense, blue too. They're kind of trapped in there too. Purple's kind of sealed off most of the continent. Red could still get out. But now you can have multiple providers to one place. The only thing I haven't done is I haven't handed these out, and that's why I noticed it. It's because the amounts change. I'll put them out and we'll see at the beginning of next turn. We got the turn order all ready for next turn, and we even did that ahead of time. See that blue actually passed black now. They're kind of in the middle of the pack because they just don't have, they haven't been able to grow, and they've got kind of old plant there. All right, I'm going to wrap this one, come back next turn.